My boyfriend of 6 years disappeared while I was out of town and I don't know what to do. Last Tuesday evening, I came home after a 2-week work trip. My boyfriend, Nate, was supposed to pick me up from the airport, but I wasn't able to get a hold of him and he never showed up. I was a little annoyed but not too worried because I figured he had fallen asleep. He had told me earlier that day that he didn't sleep very well the night before and wanted to lay down before getting me, so I called my sister for a ride home. When I got home, Nate was nowhere to be found. I checked the garage and his car was gone, so I sent him a text asking where he was. When I opened the closet to unpack, I saw that almost all of his clothes were gone. At this point, I was confused, so I started calling him and it just kept ringing and going to voicemail. I checked around the house and everything was still there except his car and clothes. I'm really starting to freak out at this point, so I called my sister and she came over. We both tried calling and messaging him and still got no answer. His computer and his laptop were both still in his office. I logged on to his computer and my sister his laptop, but we didn't find anything out of the ordinary, so I started searching his desk and found his iPad in the top drawer. I logged into it and checked everything I could think of and found nothing out of the ordinary. My sister suggested checking the Find My iPhone app on his iPad to see if we could find out where his phone was. We logged into the app and saw that his phone was pinging in the next state over. I started calling him again, but still got no answers to my calls or text. I really started to lose it here. My mind started going all over the place trying to figure out what could be going on. I called the police because I thought someone had to have done something to him. The police came out, but they said there wasn't much they could do because he hadn't been gone long and his missing clothes was a sign that he left on his own violation. Over the last few days, I've done everything I can to contact him. He doesn't have any family except for a brother that he cut ties with before I met him. I eventually found him online and sent him a message, but he said he hasn't seen or heard from Nate in years. I keep checking his phone's location, and since Saturday morning, it has been pinging in the same location in the Pacific Northwest. I took off work for the rest of the week, and my sister and I are flying up there to go to the location of his phone. Has anyone ever dealt with something like this before? How do I even confront him? What if he is with another woman? What if he isn't there, or worse? I am so lost and hurt right now. My mind is all over the place. I can't think straight. I'm so lost right now. Edit. Yes, I have called or messaged all of his friends. None of them have seen or heard from him. I do have access to his bank account as we have a joint account but not his business account. He last used his debit card Friday night in a town west of Seattle, Washington. He owns his own business but has taken a step back over the last year, so he doesn't communicate with them regularly. They haven't heard from him since last month. I am 5 months pregnant and we have known for 3 months. He did become a bit reserved and withdrawn since we found out, but it's not uncommon for him to do that every so often, especially around this time of year. I don't truly believe that he would abandon me and his child. That's just not the type of man he is, but I don't know what to think anymore. Small update. First, I want to say thank you to everyone for suggesting the welfare check. We called the department where his phone is pinging, and they have sent someone over to see if they can make contact with him. It's been over an hour, and we are still waiting to hear back. I am hopeful, but still have an overbearing sense of dread. All I want to know right now is that he is okay, and I can figure out everything else later. I just need to know he is okay. Update. The police were able to do a welfare check, and although they were unable to make direct contact with him, they spoke to the couple who live at the house. They said they were old family friends and that he was there on Friday and Saturday, but that he went to Mount Olympic Sunday morning to go hiking for a couple of days. The officers informed them of what was going on and they told him they believed he was okay and that they would contact me tonight to try and help explain the situation. What does that even mean? I am even more confused. Our flight to Seattle is at 9:45 a.m. tomorrow, and at this point, we are still going. I hope these people do call, but it's been a while now, and I haven't heard anything. New update. I think this will be my final update. I have to get ready and get my stuff packed for the flight in the morning. I have just spent the last hour speaking to the couple whose house he was at, and they against his wishes told me what is going on. They have known Nate since he was 12 years old. He started dating their daughter Ashley when they were in 6th grade, and they continued dating all through middle school and high school. Ashley got pregnant toward the end of their senior year, and they got engaged. I don't know how to even write this next part. When their son was 1.5 years old, they were involved in an accident with a drunk driver. Nate was ejected from the car, but Ashley and his son passed away in the accident. She said that he blames himself for it because according to him they were never supposed to be out that night and it was his fault they were. She said he withdrew from them and everyone else, and that up until last Friday. They hadn't heard from him since he left. She has offered to come get my sister and I from the airport in the morning, and she can try to answer any questions I have while we wait for him to return. She said they know where he is. He is at the spot they spread Ashley and his son's ashes. She said he told her that he needed to be with his son one more time before he let him go. I'm honestly in a total state of shock right now. I don't know what to think, but I know he is in pain and I need to get to him and I can figure everything else out after. Final update, we did fly out to Seattle last Tuesday morning. Kathy, Ashley's mom, picked us up from the airport and took us back to their place. On the way there, she said her husband was on his way to go find Nate so he could bring him back, but it would likely be a few hours before they would arrive back. As we waited, Kathy did her best to answer some of the questions that I had. I knew Nate lost his mom at a young age to breast cancer, but she said it had a deeply profound effect on him and he became a very troubled child. Then, Kathy started to reveal information about Nate's past that I did not know. She said that when he and Ashley met, Nate was in a group home because he was in a lot of trouble for fighting and drug use at the age of 12. I was kind of taken back by this, because I've never known him to do anything besides smoke green from time to time. He doesn't even drink. She said that when they met, Ashley immediately took on the role of protector for Nate. She could feel his pain and she wanted to rescue him from it. When they finally got to know him, they decided that they would take Nate in once he was out of the group home. At 16, he finally got out of the group home but was still on probation, so he had to live with his dad, who was an alcoholic and abusive, but Nate would spend most evenings and weekends at their house. He still got in trouble because he kept failing his UA for greens, but he was no longer getting into fights. Nate credited Ashley for that and felt like she and her family were the only people, besides his mom, to ever show him any love or compassion. She asked if I would like to see pictures of them, and when she showed me the picture of Nate holding his son for the first time, I broke down. I have never seen him in the 6 years we have been together with a smile like that. He was so happy. He smiles now from time to time and he is always laughing, but I've never seen that smile, that gleam. It just broke me to know that he had been living in that much pain for 15+ years and hid it from everyone. We looked through more pictures and she told more stories and spoke of how sad she was when he left. We talked for hours and then finally her husband came through the door, but Nate was not with him. George, Kathy's husband, said that he had found Nate where he was supposed to be and explained that my sister and I were at their house waiting for him. He said when he told him this that Nate laughed and said of course, and that he would head back. He just needed a few more minutes alone. So we waited for what felt like forever, and finally, a little over 2 hours after George arrived back, Nate walked in the front door. He looked at me and the first words out of his mouth were, "I should have known my note wouldn't be good enough and that you would come find me. I love you and I am very sorry." I confusingly asked, "What note?" He told me he put a note in the front seat of my car. I never even thought to check there. I am going to leave out a lot of this next part because it's very personal, but I asked him why he would just leave me at the airport and why he wouldn't just call or text me that he was leaving. He said that while I was gone, he wanted to put some of the things that we had gotten for the baby in the nursery and start painting it. Everything was fine until he started putting together the dresser and the changing station. While he was putting them together, he was flooded with memories of his son and Ashley, and that it actually knocked him off his feet and he broke down. He said every time he closed his eyes he saw them, and he decided to take mushrooms to try and help get him out of it. All that did was make things worse, and he realized that he needed to not forget them and not hide them, and that he needed to go make peace with them and ask them to forgive him for abandoning their memory. He knew that when I got home that I would obviously know something wasn't right with him, and he also didn't know how to tell me he had been hiding a huge part of his past. Anyways, he expressed how sorry he was, and that he understood if all of this was too much, and if I didn't want to be with him anymore that he would completely understand. I let him know that as long as he agreed to never hide something from me or disappear again and would agree to go to therapy and couples therapy, that I wouldn't be going anywhere. He promised he would do whatever I asked of him. I asked him to fly back with me, and my sister called her husband to fly in, and they would drive his car back. So we are back home now. He hasn't started therapy yet, but has an appointment next week. Our baby is doing okay, and so am I. I just need him to be okay, and everything will be good again.